We moved into this apartment in November of 2011. Her and I, no kids. It's quiet. And then number one came. One kid, two kids. No, you come back. No. Oh, don't do that. Oh, heads up. 3 kids, 4 kids. And I thought that was the outer limit. But we kept going.
Why does he behave as though he had no say in how many children they had?
It's hilarious, right? So welcome to a luxurious penthouse apartment in Greenwich Village, New York City, where a very famous movie star, you just heard him, Alec Baldwin, is living with his much younger wife, their 7 children, aged between 11 and 2, 2 nannies, many pets, and a manslaughter charge hanging over their heads. Yes, it's a feel-good reality TV show, The Baldwins, all about Alec and his wife, Hilaria. And I watched it so you don't have to. Here are some very short, life's too short takeaways. The show is apparently filmed in the run-up to Baldwin's trial over the 2021 death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. In case you don't remember, Helena died when a gun Baldwin was firing on the set of The Western Rust did not fire the standard blanks, but live ammunition. She was the mother to a 9-year-old son. That case was eventually dismissed, but civil charges are pending. This makes it a tricky tonal needle to thread, right? Because that trial and the stress of it on the Baldwins is frequently mentioned and counted down to through the first episode, right?
So they talk about it.
A lot, yeah. But the other overarching plot line is like this supposedly comedic mayhem of a family where a 66-year-old man is parenting 7 children, right? So there are like birthday cake calamities and dog wee on the floor and constant mess and shouting.
So wacky.
Yeah, and him doing a very good job of remembering all their names and things about their personalities. And then also there's Hilaria, right? And I know we're not meant to mention women's appearance, but her breasts are unbelievably distracting and stupendous. She's talking to camera all the time about her babies, about the absence of a prenup, about what a dark time this is in their lives. Such a dark time that it's been turned into a chirpy reality show. Mia, considering that overall the impression is of a troubled man falling apart in the middle of an ocean of children and tiny dogs and cats that he's allergic to, why would Alec Baldwin, and Hilaria, of course, decide to make a reality show at all, and especially now?
The first reason is money, because all the lawyers' fees are very expensive. The second reason is the same reason why most people do reality shows, which is they want to be understood, most famous people. They want, in the same way that Meghan did her show, they want to write their own narrative, and they feel that the narrative created for them by the media and social media is incorrect and unfair, and they want to change the conversation and be better known. So the narrative that's been written for the Baldwins until this show was, as you say, the tragedy of what happened on the set of Rust, and also Hilaria and the, how you say, cucumber. And her accent, where a few years ago during a bit of a quiet news cycle, I think it was around Christmas a couple of years ago, a video emerged of her doing a cooking demonstration and struggling with her English. And she's often spoken in a Spanish accent, and it came out that she's actually Hillary from Boston, who has no Spanish background, no Spanish heritage. She spent some time in Spain. I think her parents moved there after they retired, and she visited there a few times. But it became this idea that she was cosplaying being Spanish.
She speaks Spanish in the show a lot.
Yeah. And at one point in the show, he says, oh, no, you're speaking too fast and you're speaking in a Spanish accent, which never goes well. And so they do talk about that. I've only watched a little bit of the show, but I had it on in the background while we were preparing for today. And every time I looked at the screen, Alec Baldwin just looked either like he'd been crying, I assume that's when he was talking about what had happened on the set and the trial, or just utterly beleaguered and overwhelmed, as you would be.
Because he's 66.
He is. And he's like a curmudgeonly, like his vibe is like grumpy. He's famously used to have a lot of clashes with the paparazzi way before any of this. He played Trump on Saturday Night Live for a while.
He's also 66 in a way that we're going to talk about aging in a bit, but like he is not a 66-year-old movie star who's in action movie form. Like, he's a 66-year-old movie star who actually looks 66, which
He's
is
not
quite,
Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt.
Yeah, not right now. He certainly isn't. In that, you know, both in his physical shape and his like very deep bags. Like, he looks absolutely knackered, and he also looks like someone you know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. This is a dystopian nightmare that is tonally completely incoherent. I have no idea why you would think this is a good idea and this would end well. To have the storyline of the sort of bumbling father and the funny chaos of the 7 kids and da-da-da, that reality show, green light, understand.
Yeah.
Great. Happens all the time. That's great. Then you need to layer it with some stakes, which is often the thing. It's like you see it in every documentary. It's like, what's our narrative arc? What are we working towards? To layer that with the stakes of a woman who was killed and a little boy lost his mother and the family is reeling and has said, we don't like this. We don't want this. We don't want this show. We find this really, really uncomfortable. Just feels so wrong. And a lot of people are saying, like, Alec Baldwin wasn't the victim. Stories can have more than one victim. And I actually have empathy for Alec Baldwin.
So
it
do
was an
I.
accident. His life will never be the same. He is certainly not a victim in the same way as Helena was and her family. It's just the most awful, horrendous thing to have happened on set. But to use it as fodder for a reality show is so distasteful.
My suspicion is that this was in the works way before that happened.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it has been, for those people who sort of followed her, she was a yoga instructor. You know, it's a story, tale as old as time. Older man hooks up with younger woman. And then she starts having the babies. And, you know,
she's
1
an influencer,
and 2.
kind of, right?
Yeah, and 1 and 2 and then 3. And then it suddenly, he's a bit my Roman Empire. That's why this reality show is a little bit my brain coming to life, because I think about it often. Like, sometimes on the weekend when I'll just be chilling, I'll go, imagine being Alec Baldwin and like you finished work and you come home, because he's still got to work, and you come home and you've got 7 babies.
Yeah, but it's funny how we do this to older men, right? And it happens a bit in The White Lotus too, like the dynamic of the older man and the younger woman, almost like he's being manipulated or exploited by a younger woman who wants 100 children and 500 pets.
Yeah.
As though he has no agency in his life. And I don't understand, like, the thing of just like, how do we get all these children? And then he refers more than once, I think, to having 7 children. Like, oh, we had 7 children. You have 8 children, mate.
Yeah, but to be fair, he says, because it is true that the question of why 7 children is not answered, right? Like, but he does say at the beginning, and she says too, that when they very first met, he was very clear, I want kids, I want more kids, I want them now. And he says that his experience, he had this famously toxic, acrimonious divorce from Kim Basinger back in the day, with whom he had a daughter, Ireland, and that went very badly. And a voicemail, like a voice message back in the times of answering machines and all the rest of it, was released where he was berating his teenage daughter, and he called her a little pig, and that went, well, old-fashioned viral, and his whole thing was, what a terrible father, what a monster. And he sort of says, I wanted a chance to do it again. And what's interesting about him saying that is I think a lot of older men think that. They think, I screwed it up the first time. I want another go at it. I'm going to do it differently. But the thing that I find, there's 2 things about this that I find interesting. Usually I'm pretty forgiving about people putting their kids in content, right? If everyone's having a good time and people are getting paid and it's fair, I'm like, go for it. But this is really interesting because over the course of episode 1, you get individually introduced to every kid with their name, with their personality traits. Little so-and-so likes planes. This one's really thoughtful. This one's really funny. This little girl's really bossy. The teenage girl is a classic teenage girl with lots of hair tossing and short shorts. And you kind of like, ooh, this is a big, that footage is there forever now in a show that a lot of people are going to hate watch. And the other thing that's interesting to me, I'm, as much as the next person, like to look inside rich people's lives. And so I'm like, I want to see this 5-bedroom penthouse apartment, and they've got a see-through dog pen, and they've got the nannies and the cars and all that. But there is nothing aspirational about this show, right? You just go, oh, no. No. Did you?
I see, I don't mind the chaos, and there's something about the presenting it as a bit of a freak show that irks me a little bit. Maybe because my mum was one of 7 and they, came from like big Irish families. And I see the appeal of that. And the whole like, why would you have like 7, which is what a lot of people are saying, is like...
We're always interested in big families, so we're fascinated by big families.
And how they work.
Yeah,
I think that the machinations of how they all get in the car, like that's interesting. I do think that's interesting.
How you remember all their names, like how you give them all attention.
But I agree with you, Holly, on the kids, because there was a clip I watched of, she might have been 12, speaking to her mum about Alec being in court and reflecting on how scared she was he was going to be sent to jail. And I just thought, this is a really private, vulnerable, scary moment. And what we know now about how reality TV is produced and the way that would have been filmed, the crew, how much they would have had to get in order to even make this show.
How many times she would have had to have the conversation spontaneously.
All the producers in the house.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Do you think they would have been paid lots and lots and lots?
Yeah.
Because as you
Many
say,
millions.
like the money is significant and they, in this you see they're lavish in inverted commas Hamptons Beach house, which apparently is up for sale for similar reasons. So it's a little bit of desperation.
Yeah, well, they've got bills to pay. It's simple business. And I think what's also fascinating, and I wonder if they'll reference it in a future episode, but I remember when she had, I think, her 5th or 6th baby, when that baby was about 3 or 4 months old, she appeared on Instagram with another baby and no one could really understand what was going on. And then she said, this baby, we've adopted this baby. And I think now they're saying it was maybe a surrogate. So that was never, and of course that's their personal business, but that's a pretty interesting decision in the middle of, clearly she's not got fertility problems that we know of and having all of these babies, which she documents herself carrying and her body snapping back after having each of them. And then she adopted one when she already had, I'm fascinated in her as a person.
I did wonder, I thought, was there a way to embark on this project as a documentary? If this was a documentary similar to the Beckhams.
Yeah, a different style.
A different
tone.
style that even that could speak to the family of the victim, and because it is a tragic, horrible story. I haven't been able to look away from it because I just think how many lives have been touched by
Again,
it.
to be a little bit fair, Hilaria in particular is very often saying to camera, we're going through a very hard time. Alec's mental health is hanging by a thread. But of course it is nothing compared to.
Yeah,
like,
they
that is
acknowledge
said
it.
many
The
times.
issue is that the next scene is like, I'm
Exactly.
cleaning a bin.
The
And it's
tone is so strange.